What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is your host, Adam Mason with the Beer to Talk podcast. Very excited. Guys, we're already 3 months into this year. Like, that is a huge deal. What are you doing right now to change the trajectory of your life and your business right now? Like, all those trainings, all those free workshops, all those things that you haven't watched, you haven't executed on, you haven't done the work on, like, that's what's holding you back right now. And that sucks. And it's probably the fear that it won't work out. But I am living proof, and the guest we have on today is living proof that things do work out, and you just need to keep going. Consistency is what matters, and you can figure it out along the way. So really, really cool episode coming at you today from our good buddy, Joe Tobiason, aka Joe Tobiason on Instagram. Just a great guy from Seattle, wonderful podcaster, and just a really fun photographer to have, who it's all about the depth and the client experience. So I think it's really cool to hear kind of how he does a touch point with all his clients, and just hear a little bit about his story and why he got into photography. So it's really, really cool. So without any further ado, here's my good buddy, Joe Tobiason. Well, Joe, I want to welcome you to the show, and I just want to get right into it, man. You got featured. I don't even know the proper terminology. You got posted by Kodak this week. That's freaking awesome. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's as soon as I posted that, I shared it just like family and stuff, and they were like, "Oh yeah, did you get a bunch of new followers?" Like, yeah, no, not really, but like that's not the point. Like, it feels really cool to have like the most legacy brand in photography and somebody with them saying like, yeah, your work is cool. And it's not even like my personal work, to actually say like your wedding photography is interesting and worth looking at. And like, I don't know, it's nothing more than a just big pat on the back. It feels really good. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, it's an acknowledgement from like, ask any non-photographer. Like if you ask anybody to name like a big rock band, ideally people would say Metallica. And if you say, hey, name a big, film company or name a big camera company from back in the day, and like Kodak is the answer. So I think that's just cool. It's not like a obscure wedding blog, no offense to those guys, but like your parents know what Kodak is. So that's so cool, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it feels cool. And yeah, and it's especially because I've been doing more and more film the last few years, so it just feels good to have like 2 years of work kind of not culminate, but just like another milestone in the journey of photography. Like, yeah, there's a little mile marker that we get to pass, and it was cool.
Yeah, it means that somebody somewhere is paying attention, and I don't know. I think that's really fun. When I saw that this week, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like good timing that you're coming on. That'll be really cool. I don't know when this will release, but at least it'll be sweet. I think it's cool. So I want to know, a little bit about you. You're based in Seattle, right? Do you know Benj Heish by chance?
A little bit, yeah. We've crossed paths at a couple events here and there, and we've been kind of talking about making a video together. But I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that on. Let's cut that out. Let's pretend I don't know.
Yeah,
we talk on Twitter. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like half it's talking about the Seahawks and the Mariners, and then occasionally film photography too. So that's mostly what it is.
That's awesome. That's super cool. We're just trying to recruit, Seattle people to the podcast. So. Tell me a little bit about you. That's all I know, basically. I mean, I forget. I was trying to look through like Instagram followers and following, and figure out like how did I find Joe, right? Like why did I find Joe and be like, dude, you need to come on? And I literally couldn't figure it out. And I was just like, I just like Joe. So I was like, well, screw it. Like this is what's happening. And so tell me a little bit about yourself, and like, are you from Seattle? And then your story. How long have you been shooting? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. So I was born in Tacoma, which is just south of Seattle. I've lived in the Washington, like Puget Sound area my whole life, or nearly my whole life. Then I went to school in Spokane, which is the east side of the state. And then following that, I moved to Peru to work for a nonprofit, kind of like a Peace Corps-esque program for a while.
Sure.
And that's I'd always enjoyed photography, videography and stuff before that. Like I just was but not like I didn't take classes in high school. I just was like, I was stoked during family vacations when we needed, like my parents wanted a photo taken of them, and they're like, all right, well, here you go. Here's the family camera. And it's just, yes, this is my moment. Or like, my grandpa had an old not Super 8, whatever the 8mm cassette, like that kind of in between the digital 8. I don't know what. Yeah. He had those, and like I was always so stoked for family vacations. I was like, oh, I'm just going to record hours of garbage, and it's going to be so much fun. So I just had fun with it and stuff. But then when I was going to move to Peru, I was like, this is going to be an opportunity to see communities, to do things that I wouldn't have done otherwise. And so I bought a Minolta SR2 200, which is actually, it's still sitting right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
And which is a film camera. And so, while I was down there, I shot, by the end, I was shooting about a roll a week, because film was pretty cheap to get developed to that point, and I could get it pretty inexpensive. And so just because with my job, I did a lot of traveling throughout Peru. I wore a lot of hats, but one of my roles was I did translation for tour groups, like donor groups. And so it allowed me to go to a lot of places and meet a lot of people. And so it's I'd be in the same place, every month or something. And so I kind of like, it'd be at like a lunch break or something, and I wasn't translating. I was like, well, I can either go sit in the corner and talk to all the white people that are going to go home,
the gringos, yeah.
Or I can go talk to the Peruvians, and because I speak Spanish, obviously. And it's like, well, I'll just go talk to them, and then that would always lead to portraits, and lead to photos and stuff that are still on my walls, and are photos that really like started me on this trajectory. So I kept doing that until I finished the program, and then I moved back to Seattle, where I was kind of the guy with the camera for a couple of years. For a while, just doing film, mostly black and white, because I'm a cheapskate, and so I wanted to. The black and white, like Kent Mirror 400 is a dirt cheap film, and developing it with ID11 is dirt cheap, and it was way cheaper than buying a DSLR. So I did that for a long time until kind of I got a job, and I could afford to get a DSLR, and I kind of did that for a while until I had poor friends who started asking me to shoot their weddings. And after the first one, I was like, this is really fun. I really like this. And so I did it on the side for a couple years until we bought our house. And as soon as, if you've ever tried to buy a house when you're self-employed, it's really, really hard. So I stayed at my day job until we signed the papers. And as soon as they handed my keys, I took all of my vacation I had, which was like 2.5 weeks, and had like a quitcation and just worked in the house for 2 weeks because they wouldn't let me cash out my vacation. So I used that to work in the house, and then came back, put in my 2 weeks, and quit my job. And I've been doing wedding work, primarily weddings ever since, with a little bit of international nonprofit, and then the other random things you do when you're self-employed, because you want to get paid. So
and I mean, mortgages are important. So
they come every month, so you got to keep finding work.
Yeah, very reliable. Clients might not come every month, but mortgages will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's super cool. I mean, there's so much there. The film side of things. So I have a confession to make, and Benj makes fun of me for this. I've never shot a frame of film. I've shot literally last year. We shot our millionth photo digitally because we track all of that. But I've never shot a frame of film. And so half of what you said about like knowing that black and white is cheaper than color, I would have zero idea that was even a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's super fun. It's all, I mean, I think that there's, with the film community, that there's some people who get a little bit too religious or self-righteous about the filmness. And it's like, oh, it's better than digital and stuff. Like, it's a tool. And if you're using it, if it inspires you to make photos, then use it. And if it's not where you are right now, that's fine. And, we're going to find our way in and out of film here and there for a while. And like I said, I had 5 years where I didn't shoot film in between. Like, yes, it's where I started, and I'm doing a lot of it now, but it took 5 years where I barely took any film, and that's okay. Like, it is what it is. And like, I hope that, if you ever come out in Seattle, like you're out here, like, sure, we'll hang out, you, me, and Benj, and we'll go shoot film, and we'll shove one in your hands and like make you do it. And then, 2 weeks later, you'll be pestering us about which film cameras to buy, but it'll be fine.
Knowing me, I would probably have like something ordered before I even got back on the plane. I'd be like, okay, ready. Like, I have that personality where I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Like, if I'm in, I'm very committed. So,
then in that case, maybe it's better if you don't, because it is an endless rabbit hole.
Yeah, dude, I can't imagine. I mean, some of my background, I used to play guitar, and even in that world, there's like 3 different styles of amp. And so there's like tube amplification, solid state, and now modeling, and all 3 of them kind of have like different camps and different people who are like very into it. And I'm still like on the tube side, which is like very old school, probably, just being real, probably not even the best for the environment, because the tubes are made outside of the US and then like have to be imported. And then like the new school is like the modeling, and it's very similar to the camera world, where it's like, what you like, but There's something about the relationship you have with the camera, or even just the relationship that you have with the process or the end product or whatever. Like, there's so many facets of, like, if we ask you why you shot film, it's not for, like, if you ask somebody why they shot like a Hasselblad, like, they'll give you a good answer, right? But for film, there's so many different answers, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I completely agree. And it's, I think it's easy to get caught up in the end product. I mean, the same thing, like with amps or with people talking about how vinyl has like a warm feel or something to like that, which is sure, maybe, but like to the layman, it doesn't matter. Like it's all about the creative process. And how does that matter to you as somebody who's making the art? And, and as long as you're being inspired by the work you're making, then use the tools that are inspiring you to make that work.
Now, when you went to Peru, I love kind of diving into this like nonprofit thing, just because I literally shot a nonprofit thing this morning, you know, for $0, but it was like a passion project, super cool. And I wanted to ask you, like, did you speak Spanish before? Did you learn Spanish before going on the trip? And you're like, hey, this is something I want to do? Because I feel like that is, I mean, that's commitment, man. Like, that's awesome.
No, I'd studied for years before. And so I was fairly fluent before I left, and then was obviously very, very fluent by the time I got home. Because I'd studied all through high school and college. I studied abroad in Central America my senior year of college. So yeah, by the time I got to Peru, I was pretty solid, but it wasn't like to that translation perspective of like, I could get by, I could have conversations, but then by the time I was leaving, it was like, I can tell like exactly translate what people are saying. I could listen to soccer on the radio and follow it very well, which if you've ever listened to Spanish commentators in soccer, it's rather fast. So that was one of my prouder moments.
That's so cool, dude. I wish we had you. I coached a youth soccer team in Guatemala, and I literally only knew like, you know, muy bien, if they did a good job, you know, so like
hand signals go a long way. So you
right. Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Luckily they know the game. We'd just be like, come on, you know, we can cheer them on. And if we're happy, we're happy. So, one thing I wanted to ask you about that I thought was cool, that I was just noticing kind of like my research and diving deep, and, was you have a manifesto on your site. And, I feel like that's like not common for a lot of photographers. And you know, I talked to a lot of photographers who very much like, when it comes to writing about their why, you know, or why these things matter, or the depth of what they're trying to do, the answer is usually, I love documenting couples in love, have passport, will travel, you know, I'm a dog mom and a coffee addict, right? Like, just very surface level things. And I was just so excited to see that big manifesto on there, and I read a little bit about it. So like, tell me about that. And like, I don't know. It seemed like there was so much more depth there than you would normally get from other wedding vendors. And I think that's, I don't know, I applaud that. I think that's really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was probably 2 years ago or something. I was doing a big website redo. And part of it definitely is a little bit of just like trying to be different. But also like, I wholeheartedly believe that my job as a wedding photographer is to tell your story. And that a lot of there's some people who are able to do a good job of being themselves and pushing who they are as artists into people's work. And there's some people who work really hard to like let other people shine through their work. And I don't know how to, like, those can, without like seeing the hand motions and stuff that I'm trying to do right now, like it's probably hard to understand, but like, I'm very much on my, like, I want to be client driven and very much like who you are driven. And so, you know, and I try to spend a lot of time getting to know my clients beforehand, trying to make sure that they're comfortable in front of the camera, and also trying to get out of the way as much as I can, and trying to get the camera out of the way, so that it is very much finding who they are, finding why they like each other, finding the little moments that allow them to be themselves, and then also helping people to feel comfortable, so that they feel like they're putting, you know, their best selves out there, that they know what they look like when they hug, but how do I turn that up to 11? How do I make it look just a little bit better?
Sure. No, totally. That's something I always tell my couples. I jokingly tell them, I say, hey, like, you know, the camera actually takes away intimacy, you know, rather than people used to say the camera added 10 pounds or something like that. So I always be like, oh, the camera takes away intimacy. You know, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. And then too, it's just being, I think there are a lot of photographers who want to do it for themselves. And then there are photographers who, you know, want to do it for, you know, for clients and to make it like a good thing.
for me, I think the one thing that's really it's tough about that is just because I am, and that I think that doesn't lead necessarily to like a very consistent look. And I'll be the first to admit that. Actually, I mean, not to like brag, not to toot my own horn or something, but like I was up for Rangefinder's 30 Rising Stars last year, and I wrote my big thing talking about like why all my weddings look different. And that was my whole point behind what I was trying to say was like, I don't care if wedding A and wedding B look like a very different in them, because I'm not going to try to edit those to be different. Cause like one was a middle of the summer, middle of like the high desert of Oregon. And the one next to it is like rainy in the Northwest in the winter. Like those are going to look really different. So it seems really disingenuous for me to try to mesh those two and like come up with like a consistent Joe Tobiason look, when that's not telling either their stories, because I'm going to end up something in between the two of them that isn't who they are and what that day was. And so I didn't win. And I think I didn't win because they're like, you're not very consistent in your work. I was like, well, did you even read what I said? Of course I'm not consistent. That's the point.
We need to have them on here.
Exactly. I mean, I think I'm consistently good. I'm just not consistent in making like 3 weddings, are going to look different. And I'm totally okay with that because like those 3 clients didn't attend each other's weddings. They aren't going to look at each other's wedding photos. They just want photos that tell their story. And that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like we're in the same boat. I don't care about contests in general, and it's just, again, it's like a nice pat on the back if it can happen. But like I care about like my couple's lives and my effect on them, and hopefully the impact we've had on them, and then I also care about the mortgage. Like that's literally like those two things. Like, hey, can we love people well, and do we impact them, and are they happy with the experience that we gave them, and then are we paying our bills? Whereas like the contests and features and submissions and all that stuff, it's icing on the cake, but it never like, I don't know. It's just, we get a lot of photographers that are like chasing that, and the work is amazing, but it's just one of those things that for me, I haven't found it either as well. Like it's just not fulfilling. Have you guys ever dropped the ball on a client, missed an email, or maybe forgot to schedule a meeting? It's embarrassing, right? Like I absolutely hate it, and it makes you look dumb and unprofessional, and then ultimately makes you less valuable, right? Because your clients have lost their trust in you. Well, that's where Tave comes in. Tave is one of the most advanced and customizable platforms for managing our photography businesses. It's what I use literally every day. I've used it for the past 3 or 4 years, and it's changed my business forever. Before Tave, guys, like I was just like you. I had to manage everything in Dropbox folders, iCal, text messages, whatever. Everything was scattered all over, and it felt like my business was that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's the guy in front of the like conspiracy board. That's what my business felt like to run. But now I manage over 60 clients a year, and even as we grow our team here at Mesa Photography, Tave is making it super easy for us to make sure every single wedding client, corporate client, whatever, gets the luxury client experience that we want them to have. So one of my favorite features of Tave is the booking reports, right? So Tave tracks all of our inquiries, how they found you, and of course, how much you got paid. That really helps me look at booking trends to predict when things will be slower, when they'll ramp up, start to plan for revenue and big purchases at the end of the year. Tave helps me with that. I've used Tave for, seriously guys, like 3 or 4 years, and it's changed everything. Whether you're a wedding photographer, videographer, headshot guru, or boudoir, gorilla master, I don't even know, Tave can work for you guys. The Tave people have a wonderful deal for you guys, and it is an extra 30 days to their normal 30-day free trial. So the Bearded Talk listeners get 60 days. So they get double the length to try it out, set it up, and get your life back. So head over to thebeardedtalk.com/Tave to sign up and get your extra special 60-day free trial today. That's thebeardedtalk.com/TAVE. Try out Tave and get your life back today, guys. Thanks to Tave for sponsoring our show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every feature I get is like, I'm not hoping, I don't want this. It does, like, it's true. It's cool. But does it get me a couple extra backlinks? Does it help me push up my SEO? Does it help me do those kind of things that help like me have a sustainable business is mostly of what I'm looking for. Or me find new clients that are going to resonate with what I said, with the photos that I took. And they're like, let's tell your story too.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's super important. I want to know about your first wedding, because I feel like I talk to a lot of photographers who are not wedding photographers and like, oh, I could never do it. And most of them, I feel like, have a story from a bad wedding. But my first wedding was fun, and yeah, we didn't make much money on it, but it seemed really cool, and we got to make cool stuff. Like, was your first one fun? And then do you think that helped get you excited about it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mine was, I mean, it was a friend, who was kind of having a quick, be cheap wedding in the middle of the winter, which is not the time that people get married around here. Cause it's, not,
Awful.
not that it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cold and rainy. And
Yeah.
so like, that's to say, like my first wedding was cold and rainy in the middle of winter in December in Seattle. So, it's a tough place to start, but no, it was a blast. Like it was because I just came into it with people I kind of knew already. Like it helped get rid of a lot of the anxiety of, that. And it was like a little bit last minute. So I felt like they're just like, yeah, we just want a few good photos and stuff. And so like, there wasn't a ton of pressure on the first one. But I also just put a lot into it. Just like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to be as open as I can be. I'm going to take as many photos as I can, especially that first one. I was like, man, I took so many more photos than I do now. Cause I was just like, just keep taking photos. Like, you know, not fully quite spray and pray, but definitely a little bit along there, and just having fun with it and trying to balance like getting close and finding like people having fun and go from there. But also I think I'm very much like a DIY kind of a person. And so that's kind of how I attack most new things in life, is like, I just kind of start doing them.
Yeah.
And then I learn down the road, like, oh, I probably should have done that differently. Oh, I probably should have been nervous going into my first wedding. Oh, I probably, I should have, the first time I tried to use off-camera flash and something, like, oh, maybe I should have bought a nicer one up front instead of buying the cheapest thing on Amazon. Like I see why it was so cheap, but I just started with it. And I just that's a lot of the ways that I do these kind of things. It's like, I just start and it kind of goes from there, and then I'll learn what I did wrong. And if people want to learn from my mistakes, like I can definitely help you not do the dumb things I did along the way. But like for me, it's just the process of trying things and just going for it. And I mean, like house project and stuff, my wife laughs at me all the time because there's just like stuff that I'll just started doing. And then she's like, did you really think through that one all the way? I was like, well, no, but I wanted, there's literally, there's a hole in our wall because I was going to wire in speakers into the house.
Yeah.
And I just drilled a hole in the wall and I was going to start working on it. And then like, I came to realize that like the type of like insulation we have just would not allow the wires to be run up to the roof like I wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I just drilled a hole in the wall. So like we're looking to sell. So like I actually have to go repair a hole because I just started doing something, which, so no to everybody else, like photography, just don't start drilling holes in your walls if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally why this podcast exists. So hopefully we can like eliminate some of that, those missteps. Like we're all learning to walk, right? And then it's like, hey, you definitely should wear proper shoes or whatever or something like that. The home thing I resonated with so much. I'm very similar where I'm like, oh, I want to make this happen. And then what we all need in life is like the guy that knows that is in that conversation. You say, hey, I'm about to drill a hole in my wall. And he goes, well, have you thought about what type of insulation you have in the wall? And you go, never, not once, not one ever in my entire life. And he's like, well, your process will be altered based on what that is, and I assume it's like, even today, I think this happens, and this hasn't happened to me in a while because I don't use lens caps, and people like judge me or whatever, but
yeah, they're stupid.
Yeah. At the time, it was like you'd show up to a wedding, you'd be ready to go, and you still had a cap on, and you're like, why are my photos black? And you're like getting your exposure, and you're like, oh, yeah, well, if somebody had just showed me, what was going on, this would be super helpful. Oh man, I love that. I want to know, tell me about your kind of process. Like, do you shoot a lot of weddings? Are you like high volume? What does that look like? And have you what's been one thing that you've kind of learned along the way? Especially, can you give a wedding example of drilling a hole in the wall and then going, oh crap?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not super high volume. Usually most years I'm in like the 20 to 25-ish range. This year is a little bit slower than other years. But I'm my daughter's primary caretaker for the weekdays and stuff. So
nice.
It's kind of, I can't, 4 days a week, I'm mostly just playing with her. So I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do a lot more. I'll take more weddings. If anybody out there is looking for a wedding photographer, I still will happily shoot your wedding. But let's see. Okay. I mean, I think there's one that was like it might be less on the wedding day, but it was more on the delivery process.
Sure.
I had been I still deliver all my photos on USBs and stuff. And so I've been, cause again, I'm a cheapskate. So I was buying like crappy USBs.
Yeah.
And
a
like
thousand at a time.
they were still branded and stuff, but they weren't very nice. And so like I sent one wedding that I sent 3 of them in a row, like 3 different ones, and sent to the same couple. And every time they'd get them, they were dead and they were dead and they were dead. And I was just like, this is like, just like the kind of things of like, just take your time, do your testing, learn how to do it. I've learned to like, I check with my clients now beforehand, like, do you have a PC or a Mac? And if they like, I work on Macs, but like my wife has PCs for her work and stuff. So like, I'll check everything on her computer before I send it out, just to make sure that like, I want this to be a good, clean, concise, like experience for my clients, that I want them when they open up their wedding boxes. I have these things that allow them to have all their senses be tapped into. So I want to just make sure that the most important piece in there that actually has the photos is going to work for them. And just, learning to just try things maybe for yourself a couple times before you push them out there. And that, there is an amount of money that is probably worth spending on to make sure that things work right the first time too.
Yeah, or at least some time or whatever, like you said. I mean, something, even just hearing that though, I'm like, oh, I would just ask them, like one of my solutions would be like in the wedding day questionnaire, it would just be like PC or Mac, and then like you already know, kind of the process to go about it. But it makes sense to like, they go to open it up and it's essentially empty to them, right? Like the photos are on there, but for some reason it's not working. And so they're just like, this is awkward, Joe. Like,
yeah, exactly.
All the trust we had in you is now gone and we hate you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just nothing else. Like I want them, on my wedding boxes, when they deliver, they get these like cool branded like camp mugs, and they got hot chocolate and they have some prints and stuff. So I want them to like smell things, to hold things, to taste things, and so like, and it starts, the USB starts with like a video that has music on it. So I'm trying to hit all the senses at once.
Sure.
But if you just don't have the most important one that has all the images, like it's really going to just fall flat in its face. And like, I want you to have that complete experience. And it really feels like I've left them like with an incomplete experience. That's like the culmination of all the work we've been doing, all this prep work, all the times that we've checked in once a quarter through the entire planning, their engagement session, the time that we spent planning through their wedding day, the whole wedding day itself, the checkups, the previews, all the things I've done up until then. It's like, and here you go.
Yeah. Do you do so it sounds like you deliver that like final experience and kind of like the box and the USBs and stuff like that. Have you always done that, or was that like gradual over time to where you're like, oh, I think this is something I want to do?
I'd always done USBs just because when I first started, I don't think there wasn't like as good of like the online delivery systems. Cause I've been doing weddings now since 2012 or so. So like they've been, the systems weren't quite as great for online back in the day. But yeah, since I wanted that complete service, I still do. I send online backups usually like the day after now, just because it's easier for them to share with friends and family. Like I don't want my clients to have to get all the photos on their USB and then have to figure out how to upload those to share them with grandma and stuff. Like, don't worry, like the next day you'll get another link and that's the one to share. But I just want to have that complete in-house, like to be able to have them watch the video, look through the things, drink the hot chocolate, read my thank you note, look through the selected prints that I've given them and stuff, and to have a few minutes to just slow down and remember the day, and not just remember what happened on the day, but try to like tap back into how they felt on that day. What were the emotions that they went through.
I love that. Have you always felt that way? I'm just always sure, because I feel like what I got from that is like this very mature, seasoned wedding photographer. But we meet lots of people, sure, at workshops and all kind of stuff, that maybe they try to do USBs and branded, and they spend a lot of money on the final product, or maybe a thank you for booking gift, or anything in the client experience, and they don't have like a good reason why. They just say, hey, I saw Joe do this. That sounds cool. Like I literally asked him where he got his mugs, and we have the same mugs, and now we're mug brothers, or sisters or whatever. And so like, have you always kind of done that? And then like, was there a process, like as you matured and as your brand matured, where you're like, okay, these are like high level marketing things?
I think it's most of it is I've been doing a lot of things like that for a long time, just like trying to make a good client experience before the ones that I have now, which are like made professionally and stuff. Like Erica used to make these boxes out of like IKEA boxes and stuff. And we had she's a really good like manual artist and stuff. So she had these cool like stamps that she'd handmade that we would put on top of everything, and just like trying to make it be as much of a high touch experience as you can, trying to like, because for the most part, like, I mean, maybe I'll reach out and I'll email them once or twice after this to like, you know, if I'm going to try to submit their wedding to be published or something like that, like we'll have a few more, but this is kind of like the last real opportunity that we're going to connect. And so I want this to, as much as possible, to be the culmination of everything we had. And I think that was the thing that I came across pretty early of like, I want this to be a good, big last experience that this is the first time you're going to relive your wedding together. And so let's try to maximize that as much as we can. And so, I think that was something that we started about the time I went full time. That was a conscious decision to make that be as immersive and as like, touching again, all the senses that you can, in that moment.
I love that. I think it's one of those things, and I'm guilty of it because I definitely still do. My last touch point with the couple is the email, and I went to a workshop probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was one of those things where it was like, guys, like, do you really want, like, kind of like you said, like the culmination of everything you've done, all the work, all the, you know, frustration if they've had it, whatever, you know, like family dynamics, the crazy wedding day, everything, and you want to finish it with an email and a link, you know? And I was like, oh, it hit hard. It's something I would love to like try and figure out how to do, you know, at least in our brand. But I feel like this is not an excuse by any means, but I just feel too busy to do it, which sucks. But I also like, it doesn't mean that I don't care about my clients. I almost treat them differently in different ways. But I do want like, at our point right now, it definitely is like this. It starts big, and then it stays big, and then probably the wedding day is like our culmination, and then after is like this wedding falling action, if you will. And Joe and I are making hand signals so nobody can see these, but you know, and thinking about that now, and I'm like, oh, I don't want that to be the case, you know, because 2 weeks after their wedding, that excitement is gone. And so I'm like, okay, like they're going to get an email and that's cool and they're pumped, but I'm like, man, if there was something more that they could touch, like you said, and feel and just like remember, and too, like we have like a secret, it's not a secret, but we want to be the favorite vendor on wedding day. Let's just like just a selfish endeavor where I'm like, oh, I love all the other vendors, love our florists, everybody, but I'm like, guys, I just want to be the favorite. Like I want to be the ride or die. And like florists don't get invited to Thanksgiving, guys. But photographers do. And I want that to be like, doing something like that always seems so wise to me. We just haven't had a chance to implement it, you know?
Yeah. And it's both for a client experience. And then also, I mean, it's good for business too, just because I get still majority of my business comes from referrals. And so making sure that I continue those post-wedding interactions to be really strong is going to be helpful. And I'm an outdoorsy person. A lot of my brand is based in the outdoors. I live in the Northwest. I am my own stereotype. I drive a Volkswagen van again. Like it's comical to the point of which I am my own stereotype, but I'm also like being outdoorsy and stuff. That's why I've done the camp mugs, is because like, I want those to be like, ideally I want them to be their camp mugs. I want those to be the thing that they keep in their camping box, and is not like that they don't see them very often, but that it brings them back to the experience of having worked with me. And, but to couple that with like going into the wedding days, I also want to view each one of those as like my opportunity to make my new best friends. Like honestly, 2 weeks ago, when you messaged me to do this, this call, I was in Palm Springs with a couple who was a former wedding client. Like I met them shooting their wedding, and we've just become really good friends and stuff. And so now like I'm vacationing with my former clients and stuff. And so having that mindset of like, how can I create this experience that isn't just like about making money, but it's like, how do I go into this making you a good friend that I'm giving gifts to because I like you? And then knowing that, 95% of those aren't actually, I'm not going to go vacationing with 95% of my wedding clients. Sure. If I have the mindset that that's what I'm looking for, then I'm going to treat them better. I'm going to treat them like the people that they want to be treated. I'm going to learn who they really are. And then that's going to help me tell their story better in the way that they want their story told. And then hopefully they have a good experience and they tell their friends too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it goes back to your first wedding, which I'm guessing like, because they were friends, you already had some level of rapport. There was also less pressure because of what they told you, or they set the tone for having there be less pressure. And thus like you were able to ideally be your, truest version of yourself as a photographer and like serving them. And I would hope, and at least for me, I know that like our favorite weddings are those ones where, yeah, it does feel like they're friends and they trust us and they say, Adam, like, just go nuts, or Joe, like, just have fun. Like, what can we do? Like, let's make something together, and they get excited. Or you're like, hey guys, I found this really cool thing. It could suck and you'll never see these at all, but give me like 30 seconds and it could be really cool. And just having that trust and that relationship. And like, I think it's hard to explain to other photographers, but maybe you feel the same way. Like, this is something we're exploring right now. It's that photography is like no longer, it's the reason our couples hire us, but it's not the reason our couples refer us. Like that experience on wedding day, and obviously the photos like play a part of it, obviously, like I'm not hiding from that. But like just because like you're willing to serve and like step in the gap for them, like they get that. And when somebody steps in the gap for you, like you are attached to them and you feel more vulnerable and you feel more open with them. And yeah, that's no longer just another wedding vendor. Like that is a friend. And like when you see couples around Seattle or here in DC and they're so happy and they wave and you want to catch up, and it's like, it happens so much, and it really does feel like the small little, like Adam Mason tribe or this Joe Tobiason tribe, if you will.
Yeah, totally. And like, I mean, I tell my clients they're booking me, like, you're going to spend as much time with me on your wedding day as your maid of honor, as your best man. And so like with that, like that means like build good rapport up front, so that like, it's going to be not awkward for them. So like you have enough to base, like, again, I'm going to go spend your entire wedding day with you. So like, I'd like to have a couple inside jokes beforehand, but also like, we're going to on your wedding day, which is big and momentous, and there's a lot of emotions in those and stuff. And I'm going to be a part of that. And I, both as a friend and as a professional, am looking at how do I help you have that experience be as good as possible. And so that is both part of my job to make sure that the photos are as good as possible, but also the experience of having the photos being taken are as good as possible. So that they go back and they say like, oh yeah, man, that wedding day was so great. We were out front. We saw our friends. We saw like our family. It was that beautiful sunset. Oh, and Joe was there, and it was so much fun. He did it, like he took photos, and and then we did family photos, and they weren't that bad. And like, not that bad is like wedding photographer as far as family photos goes. Like that's the goal. It's just like, they were not that bad, and they were done. And of course, like I want to take the world's best wedding family photos, but like I want my clients to be like, hey, yeah, we succeeded. Uncle Mike didn't punch anybody. We're fine. So not that I've ever had anybody punching. And also my Uncle Mike is really, really nice. So I don't know why that's where I went, but
I've never had anybody punch somebody at a wedding, but I did have one where, they're going to do a sparkler exit, right? Nothing too crazy. And everybody's lined up, ready to go. And because of like some in-law, mom, dad, family fight, the bride and groom missed the sparkler exit. The sparklers had flamed out. They were done. And the couple finally gets out there. And I think they had like one last second. So I literally ran in there and I was like, guys, I just need you for one shot. Like, I'll make this happen. I know, crap is hitting the fan. What can I do for you? And, but like, weddings, I think this is something Ben says, where it's like weddings expose like the depths of relationships. And, so I mean, probability says, Joe, that like we're going to see somebody get punched at a wedding
at some point, probably.
Yeah. Like you're going to miss one eventually and have to like roll through that because of emergency, health, whatever, baby. And then two, you'll have to, see somebody get punched. Hey guys, just want to come in here and thank one of our sponsors. During wedding season, I'm always thinking about how I can expand and generate more revenue for my business. It's really hard to find income generating things that don't feel awkward or take up more time, right? Like we've all been there. We've gone to the workshop where they're like, hey, do in-person sales. And you're like, that's not me. I need something else. Like I need something that can make me more money and is easier to use. Well, that's where Photo Booth Supply Co. comes in. Photo Booth Supply Co. is this incredible photo booth company based in California, and their whole sole goal is to help us make more money, guys. I have their new booth. It's called the Salsa, and it's leveled up my business for sure. I chose the Salsa particularly. They have a bunch of different booths. I chose the Salsa, though, because it fits my brand. There's no printers, papers, backdrops, boas, props, any of that BS. And you also don't have to carry a bunch of cases with you. So it's really, really, really cool. It's digital only, selfie style, and it's eco-friendly. So if you're in a city that cares about that, that'd be cool. It's all in one. You don't even need to hire an attendant, guys. Like, you're not spending more money. It's cheaper than a second shooter. It literally takes 60 seconds and the booth runs itself. It's also light enough that anybody can add it to their trunk or the back of an Uber if you're in a big city and pull it with you. I even know plenty of photographers who are bringing their salsa photo booths from Photo Booth Supply Co. to destination weddings. That's insane. Rather than hiring like a local vendor, not knowing sure what you're going to get, traveling, all that stuff, or it didn't work out when you reached out to somebody for the Facebook group, you brought your salsa, your client experience stays high value, and they're ready to go. How cool is that? My favorite part of salsa is even at a wedding, while it's generating revenue, I'm on the dance floor. I'm shooting the two dads, having fun, or I'm shooting the bride and groom or whatever. It's doing marketing for me. So every photo, boomerang, GIF, or video that it takes, it asks for a phone number and an email, and then it sends that to guests when they get their image or whatever media they created, and says, hey, follow me on Instagram. It doesn't say exactly that. It says a pre-made cool text message. It just says, hey, like, I'd love to work with you or whatever. And it's just really, really fun. So by the time I leave the wedding, one, I have more Instagram followers, which is kind of cool, kind of nice, right? And I usually will have a lead or two in my inbox from a couple who's like, hey, Billy, make sure you email this guy now. His photo booth is awesome. No brides talk like that, but that's kind of the deal. And so it's just really, really cool. I love to, salsa is so affordable, guys. Like, photo booths used to be so expensive, 5 digits, and it was hard to get into, right? Well, salsa is super affordable. They even have payment plans. You don't have to save up to start making more money. You can start today. So head over to thebeardedhog.com/booth to get your salsa booth and start making more money on every wedding today, guys. That's thebeardedhog.com/BOOTH. Big thanks to Photo Booth Supply Co. for sponsoring our show. What is, tell me your latest, like from the last wedding you shot. Tell me about an inside joke, and I'll share one of mine.
Ooh, inside joke. Actually, I haven't shot a wedding since October, so I'm kind of...
Seattle people, man. What in the world?
I know, man. It's so weird when I talk to everybody in the rest of the country. They're like, oh, we shoot all these February weddings. Like, ew, who wants...
Yeah.
Again, if you live anywhere else in the country, feel free. Joe Tobiason. But...
Yeah.
But no, it's like, it was a fun... The last one I did was like up on the San Juans. And so it's just like this like very laid back wedding. And... I think I just had too many cameras. They just made fun of me the entire day because I had like too many film cameras hanging off of me. And it's like everywhere we go, they were just like clank, 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 clank. And they just kind of like, it was a small wedding party and they just kept making fun of just like, Joe, come on, you can do it. I know you're weighing 45 pounds worth of cameras from the 1970s, but like you can make it.
Oh, very
but
Seattle
anytime
right
I'm
there.
on the, like they're making fun of me, that's a good sign. Like,
yeah,
that
100%.
means like if you're making fun of me at your wedding, like, that's exactly what I want. That means that we have a relationship, that you feel comfortable with that. And like, we're doing something right. And like, you're having fun.
Yeah.
Perfect. Make fun of me all
exactly.
day.
Yeah. I think that relationship, I'm very similar where like the people I, give a hard time to or rub, it's because I love them and I like want the best for them. But yeah, it can come off poorly. That inside joke was like a lot less inappropriate than all of ours. So I'll share 2 weeks ago, and I don't know when this will come out, but 2 weeks ago, one of the bridesmaids come to me and I think they had followed me on Instagram, when the bride maybe like booked me or told me. So they knew me a little bit more than I knew them. Cause this would not make sense if they didn't, but they, bridesmaids always ask weird questions, right? Or you have this weird level of trust that I asked my wife about a long time ago. And I was like, oh, okay. So that makes sense. And, the bridesmaids, they had like sheer wedding dresses, and it's February, which even out here, it's still cold. And, the bridesmaid she says, Adam, I feel like my nipples are going to pierce through this dress, so please make sure that they don't. And I'm like, I've never heard that before, but okay, sure, I'll add that to the list of things that I'll do today. And so, I thought it was funny, and there was only like a few people in the room, and this bridal party was probably like 18 people, 20 people or whatever, massive. And we were about to take wedding party photos, and I told them, I said, guys, we have an inside joke officially, like, this bridesmaid came up with it. Here's what we're going to say today. If we just need a laugh, if things get tense, this is our code word, for happiness, if you will. And they're like, what is it? And I said, hot nips. And that's literally, it's so inappropriate, but it worked, and they were saying it the whole day. And I was like, this is such a weird job. Like, if I explain this to anybody in the real world, like at a real office job, that these photographers and wedding party people in this luxury service industry where we do not have an HR department, and we're saying this to get people to elicit a reaction. And I don't know, it's just so funny. And then like now the process is something I'll usually do to like kind of break the ice is the next wedding I'll tell the next wedding, I'll be like, hey, do you guys have a code word? You know, do you have something funny that everybody will laugh at, something that's personal that you guys know? Can you let me in on something? And I'll even just ask them straight up, and they'll be like, I don't know. What was last week's? And so I'll tell them, you know, for example, like the hot nip story. And it's pretty funny. It's I don't know. It's yeah, I should have just let you share there, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I like that. That's I might just steal that one and just start talking to them, which will be great in the middle of summer, which is, you know, the next time when people actually want to get married in the Northwest. Like, why?
Yeah, write this down, Joe. Put it in a letter and mail it to yourself in 6 months. And then,
it's going to be like 75 degrees out, and all the Northwest people are going to be melting because it's like, it's too hot. We're going to die. We're wusses. We're absolute wusses when it comes to weather up here, but it's lovely.
Right? I mean, it looks a certain way and it feels a certain way for a reason, and it's awesome and it's great. I love that. Outside of weddings and, you know, getting featured by Kodak, which is badass. What else is going on this year? You're trying to sell your house. Is there anything else cool that you have going on?
The biggest thing, or the two big things, are that, I mean, I'm a dad, so I take a lot of photos of my daughter, which is, and that's
how old is she?
It's pretty fun. What was that?
How old is she?
She's a little over a year and a half.
Okay, nice.
She'll be 2 in June. And so, but I basically only take film photos of her, which is for a couple reasons.
Challenge.
Like, it's, you know, because I'm trying to like live the nostalgia of my own childhood and trying to give her exactly the childhood I gave. And so, you know, trying to make sure she has the Kodak dorkiness, but it's also like, she's a really fun model to practice things on. Like, anytime I get a new piece of gear, whether it's film or not, like I have this model who doesn't care if she's having her photo taken. So I get to really try new things and stuff. Yeah. But also, as a dad, like, to shoot, you know, film isn't cheap. And so I'm going to go, the light's good. You're in a cute outfit. You're having fun. I'll take 3 photos and I'll put my phone down, or not my phone. I'll put the camera down, and like, I can't post that to Instagram. I can't do anything else. So I guess I'll go back to play with you, kid. Which is, you know, makes that be a lot better of an experience and stuff. And then later down the road, I get to come back and like relive those memories. And I definitely, like, with weddings and stuff, like, I'll cull the night of, and this is the exact opposite. So it's like, it's months later when I finally get to see those photos. And so there's such, like, the good ones, like, have such a stronger emotional pull to them, because there's not like the other stuff caught in with the days, just like the pure memory of like, oh, that happened, I forgot about that. And it's pretty fun.
It's like they bubble up to the top, if you will, like the good ones bubble up to the top. Anyway, sorry.
And then the other thing is, I photograph for Heifer International, which is moderately large nonprofit based in Little Rock, and they do international development work mostly in farms around the world. And so I work with their magazine team, and so I travel. It's about twice a year right now, to go take photos for their stories and write for their donor magazine. So it looks like we'll be going to Ghana this spring. That'll be fun. I've never worked in Africa before, so that'll be a first. And getting to tell stories of what I'd assume goat farmers and how their lives are changing and stuff. And it's a unique organization, and those trips they've been really rewarding in the past. I'm really looking forward to the next ones.
That's awesome, dude. West Africa, I haven't been, but I have a lot of friends from Ghana, Togo, and Cameroon, and they're amazing. And then we've done work in Africa, in Ethiopia and South Africa. Like, it'll be great, dude. It'll be so cool. And I love that you're like, I love wedding photographers that have like something else going on, like big or small, that's just like, call it a passion project, or it's like a mix of passion and getting paid, or it's just fun and different or weird, you know, like, I don't know. I think that's really cool. I think it's awesome. I have one last like actual question for you. I'm thinking about, this might be fun or it could be awful. How has having a kid, this is a question for the older people listening. How has having a kid influenced how you relate and shoot weddings, if at all?
Oh, that is a great question. I cry during every single father-daughter dance now. I like, seriously, like, I appreciate almost like the summer ones better because I get to have sunglasses on and I can hide it a little bit. But like these winter, it's nighttime, just like sitting in the corner, like, Joe, you haven't taken your camera off of your face in a while, and you're walking around. No, oh, no reason. Totally normal here. But no, like, I think because of my relationship with my daughter and having her, like, I see those relationships differently now within my clients, and I value them so much more to be looking for those kind of relationships between the clients and their family. And so it's definitely like seeing the way that like a bride and her dad interact, to see the way that a groom and his mom or his grandma, or even to see parents and grandma, like anytime you see those intergenerational relationships happen, it holds a different weight to it. And then also just to know that like the moments are fleeting. And so doing a better job of making sure that like photographing the moment that's happening and all the people in the moment that they're happening. And so like I've always said, like no matter what happens, like I'll also guarantee to take good pictures of all the kids and all the grandparents at your weddings, because like the last good photo we have of Erica's grandma is at our wedding. And you know, these kind of, you know, cliche as it is, like kids change quick. And so to be able to put a little bit of a time capsule on those moments and say like, these are people that were there and they contributed to this day. Cause that's in the end, like I'm only trying to tell the story of one day as well as I can. But if this person is important to you, like how can I make sure that they're documented well? And like, and it, you know, that goes to both like watching on the day to see who's interacting with who, to see where those kind of fleeting smiles are coming from. But it's also like the prep work ahead of time. Like, okay, whose grandmas are coming? Like, what's your relationship with them? How can I, like, are you going to have a moment with them? Do you actually like your grandparents? All those kind of things.
Right.
And like, how can we dive into that better?
Yeah. It's so weird in the wedding world because you observe different relationships. Right. And so like there are weddings where I'm sure you've shot ones like these where, you know, the bride and mom relationship is not as awesome as other bride and mom relationships. Right. And, you know, but if you tell anybody publicly outside of the wedding world, they're like, oh, you know, everybody's happy go lucky. And you're like, no, like this wedding day is really like this melting pot of, you know, what's happening. And for that, like the intergenerational stuff, I think like the same reason we love like a grandma with a bride is like, there's some sense that we know that the grandma sees themselves in this person, in this bride, and maybe reverse, you know, and I think, but at the same time for like the parent, bride or groom dynamic, if it's bad, it's usually because for the same reason, or because the parent wants to see themselves in them and says like, no, like we're proud of you in this way, we're proud of you in this cookie cutter shape, and you're so close to being in this cookie cutter, we want you to fit in that. And the kid is just like, or the bride or groom is just like, no, well, I'm a little bit different, you think I'm a triceratops cookie cutter and I'm a T-Rex, you know, or whatever. You know, and it's so interesting. And my whole point of all that, and like you just saying that, is like none of that, like any of those photos you just talked about taking or making or, you know, delivering to family or Erica's grandma or whatever, like, do you ever think about what setting or white balance you're shooting at? No, like not at all. And I think there's just like this disconnect where these are the things that we need to be thinking about on wedding day, I feel like. And at least for the two of us, right? Like I don't care at all about like making a badass mag mod photo. You know, like I think those guys are awesome and I love those dudes and super great friends, but I'm like, yeah, that just doesn't light me, pun intended, that doesn't light me out. That doesn't make me go on fire. Like those like generational relationships, you know, people being their truest selves, the elimination of fear on wedding day, like those are what matter to me. And whether that is at, you know, ISO 100 or ISO 6400, like I couldn't care less.
Yeah. And it, almost to take it to the next level, it'd just be like the dorky photos are usually the ones that they like the best. And like the stuff that like I, as an artist, like look at and be like, oh, that's not the stuff that I'm like proud of. And like, who cares? They don't give a crap if I'm going to put this in my portfolio or not. But if it's the photo that makes them smile, if it's the one that most like shows their relationship, like if, you know, you and your grandma, like, are dorks together, then like help me take photos of you and your grandma being dorks together, and with goofy grins and like poses and like doing the like hands on hands thing and stuff. It's just like, you know, if that's what you want, if that's the story that tells like the intergenerational relationship that you have, and it feels natural, it doesn't feel like you're doing it. Like, I mean, I don't want to do that photo because like a couple saw it on Pinterest.
Right.
But if that's the photo that is like, no, for me to be the third generation of like my family that's getting married here, I'm the one who's wearing the wedding ring now, but these are the other hands it's been on and stuff. And like to say that, like, yeah, let's do that. Like maybe this isn't the photo that like pushes my creative and my artistic abilities as much as possible. But if it's the photo that tells the story that you want, like, let's dive into that. And again, that always comes back to like, how well can I know you as a client? And, but also like, I mean, there's stuff I can't prepare for, but also like the better that we have a good relationship, that a client can say to me like midday, hey, actually, I know I never told you this, but actually this thing's kind of important to me. Like, great. Let's do that right now. And I'm fast on my feet. I don't carry a lot of gear because I want to be able to just like, can we go do this thing over there? Like right now? Great. Yeah. I don't need to go bring 30 pounds of lights. I don't need to get my assistant. I don't have an assistant. So like, I generally, as long as I don't, hopefully I don't even need to go change lenses or something. It's like, cool, let's go do that right now and make that moment because it's happening. So let's go capture that memory.
Totally. Other than the one wedding where you're carrying all the gear.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Except for the one wedding where I'm like, okay, this couple's into film photography. So I'm going to carry 6 different cameras and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. You're like, listen, I'm trying to not show off by any means, but you're like, it's like, I want to be loved by him and I want to create these images for him. And I want him to think that I'm cool and I'm in the club. So, I
should just stop trying to be cool because I'm not, and I should just like, anytime you try, I think that's the coolest thing is to be cool without trying to be cool. Yeah. So I should just try to not try to be cool and then just hope the other part comes along.
I'm going to try that because one of the things I'm self-conscious of is my fashion. But if I just stop caring about it, maybe everybody will start wearing like black polo shirts and blue jeans that they got online. So
we were watching SNL from a few weeks ago and Bieber was wearing like sweatpants on. I was like, that's you've chosen to not care. So
he doesn't have to, right? Like that's the luxury
because you're cool as it is, which is
yeah. You're like the trendsetter or the trend follower, So I love that, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on and hang out. And it's really great to kind of hear like the soft skill stuff that we don't talk about so much in the wedding industry. And, like I said, where we're not trying to make an image that is technically magical in some way. We're trying to make an image that has depth to it. And so I just think that's really cool. And I applaud you. And I was so excited when I saw that you had a manifesto. I was like, oh, I knew I love this guy. And like this guy goes like my couples, they tell me that like I rant on the site and I'm like, well, yeah, I have like conviction about the things that I believe. Mm-hmm. And if you believe them, then you will come along this ride and we will go there together on this journey of whatever we believe in. And it's really cool versus like, hey, I offer cool photos. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of I know you were beginning your wrap up, but like one of my things that always makes me nervous is when clients come to me and say things like, oh, I think photos are the most important thing of the day. Like I almost don't like it when you say that. Cause I'm like, okay, so tell me more. What do you mean? Do you mean that photos and capturing the moments and the memories is really important to you? Or is it Instagram likes and Pinterest copying Pinterest stuff that you want to like, is it that the photo you want? Like, and like, I'm not trying to disparage those. Cause like be you, if you, that's what you care about and stuff. And you want like to show off the pristine perfectness of your wedding day being the day you've built up to be for your entire life. Awesome. I know who you should talk to. Yeah. It's probably not me. If you want Jose Avilla, then like go get Jose Avilla. But not to say that his photos aren't full of emotion too, but like, that's just sure. But like, if you want somebody who's going to dive in and be okay with, I'm not going to like throw you in a mud puddle, but like be okay with mud puddles. Yeah. Then maybe I'm your guy.
Yeah. It's almost like the vibe is like, hey, we care a lot. We're down with anything. Let's do this, like whatever it is, like, let's make it happen.
I mean, seriously, if you made a website that just said that, with like a contact me at the bottom, like it's probably good. It's probably not bad.
I'm gonna go make that right now. I feel like that's the Hans used to have.
Which one of us can go get that domain faster?
Yeah, exactly. The Hans used to have we give a shit just at the top of their site, and I was like, that makes sense. That's awesome. Like I love that. Like let's just spell it out for people rather than use this like magical photo language. So it's really really cool. But man, thank you so much. Seriously. where should people go to find you, see what you're doing, say hi, and look at your awesome stuff?
I think, probably the easiest is Instagram, at Joe Tobiason. So my last name being Norwegian so it's Jobiason, and that's my normal like main wedding one. If you want the travel film stuff, that's Joe Tobiason. So just put the 2 letters, the O and the E in there. And then my website is the same as the original, jotobiason.com. And if you want anything else, if you want YouTube videos and those kind of things, just Google my name and I'm sure you'll find it, because it's the one advantage of having a weird, unique last name is there aren't a lot of us. So it's pretty easy to find.
That's awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for being on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, man.
Always good to talk to my buddy Joe. He's such a great guy. And it was really cool because when we talked, he had just been featured by Kodak, which is really, really cool for all his film stuff, which I think is just really, really fun. So gotta love him. Definitely come say hi in the Facebook group. We're always offering free trainings. We had our workshop in there. We had lots of information going on, people sharing. So it's just really, really cool. We're trying something new, right? So it's not new to anybody else, and so definitely come say hi and make yourself known in the group. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day. Keep being awesome.